Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's Guys on Sports. It's Combine Week. Me and Rocky, we're in the lab. We're going to be talking about wide receivers going into next season, our way too early top 10 rankings. Now, this is not consensus. I'm giving 1 through 5. Rocky's going 6 through 10. We'll argue a little bit. We'll see where our guys fall. We haven't talked about this, so this is all fresh. But being that it's Combine Week, I just want to throw it out there. I think there's different opinions on this week. How much stock do you put into Combine Week? What do you think actually matters this week? Is it by, are there certain positions or certain tests or certain drills? What are you paying attention to?
Yeah, so, most players don't work out anymore, or at least they don't do all the workouts.
Yeah.
They save that for the pro day, especially anybody that's probably going in the first round. So I don't care as much about that. I honestly care a lot more about medicals. And so, we just saw the news about Abdul Carter, and they're saying last night it was stress fracture, might require surgery. Then this morning they backstepped and said, no, they might not. If I am thinking about drafting Abdul Carter, you better believe that my medical team is all over that guy.
Yeah.
I'm checking it out because, you're making a $20 million commitment to a 20-something-year-old guy, and you don't want to make that mistake. So medicals are important to me.
Medicals are important, and what's always important to keep in mind is that this time of year is smokescreen season, so you don't know if that's somebody at 6 or 7 that wants Abdul Carter.
Yep.
That's getting that out through one of their facilities.
Yep.
And kind of, muddying the water a little bit. I think.
Well, and it's funny because, they're asking teams, oh, come on, isn't Abdul too small to play in the NFL? Listen, there's not an NFL team with the top 6 pick that's going to say he's too small. Because if they think he's too small, they're not going to say it. They're hoping that somebody takes him so that they get their guy. So, it's the whole thing is smokescreen,
Yeah, I think one of the things I look forward to this week is really the stories that come out.
Huh? Shirtless? How they look shirtless?
No, I mean, I could just Google that. No, I'm talking about.
And you do, I think.
No, maybe I do. Maybe I don't. That's nobody's business but mine.
It's mine.
What I would say is the player meetings with the teams, I think, are interesting. The stuff that comes out there, the sneak peeks you get to see, the stuff you hear around the rumor mill about who's impressing with their football knowledge and their demeanor, and then the guys that maybe are not doing so well when they meet with teams. I think a lot of guys take jumps after the combine, obviously because of some of the stuff they're doing on the field, but I think off the field is super important. If you listen to front offices, coaches, general managers, one thing that they all echo is that it's the first time they're really getting face-to-face with these guys, get a feel for the personality.
Well, and they're actually weighing them. They're not taking, they're actually getting their weight, not what they stayed on the, pamphlet.
Measure their hands, which is a big one that everybody talks about. Joe Burrow famously said, I just found out I can't grip a football. Yeah. So, I mean, stuff like that, that's a little goofy, but I think it's a good time. I pop it on for maybe 10, 15 minutes, shut it off.
Yeah, and I'm always interested in, fastest, like I am. I want to know who the fastest 40 is.
Fastest is fun. The cone drill I like.
Yeah.
And then the I think it's the wide receiver where they hit the cones and they catch the balls and all that stuff.
Well, I like the drill where they come in off the sideline, they catch two, because every year somebody gets hit directly in the face.
Tagged in the face.
It's great.
It is great. All right, so before we move on to our wide receiver rankings, I just want to make sure that everybody out there that's watching the video and likes the video, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you're seeing this on YouTube. If not, go to YouTube and do those things. If you're on TikTok and you're seeing the clip, I got to remember to clip this stuff in. But if you're seeing us on TikTok, please follow the page. Go follow the YouTube. We need all the support we could get. We're trying to give you guys more content, more information, more access to us during the NFL season and in the off season when you're gearing up to draft your teams. So please support. We need it. We want to continue to give you a good product. So, Rocky, we're going with me. Are we going to count down? I think maybe we should count down from 10 to 1 rather than...
So you want me to go first?
I think so.
Okay, we can do that.
We didn't. We should have talked about this.
Yeah.
But what do you think will work better?
Oh, I'm fine with that because I think that, like, to be honest, there's probably a lot more that we won't agree on, 6-10 or 10-6, than 5-1. Like, I think
So then maybe I should go first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
I'll go first.
because I do think that, like, 1 through 5, we might have one that we don't agree, but I bet the same 5 will be my same 5, maybe in a slightly different order.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
see.
I guess there's only one way to find out.
Yeah. Well, and let me ask you a question. Do you rank? So, like, to me,
Yeah.
so you're going to give us top 5. Mm-hmm. But to me, there's, like, really a top 2, and then there's the next 3. And I don't know if you think that way too.
Well, what do you? I mean, you're talking tiers. That's not what I'm.
Yeah.
I mean, we could separate them into tiers if you want.
Not at all. I'm just saying that in my mind, though, like, there is a chasm. Now, maybe it's not a huge chasm, but in my mind, there's a chasm between 2 and 3.
But what are you talking about?
So,
Because like, all right. So let me.
like a 1 and 2.
I know what you're saying. I'm saying, but are you saying as a player?
Yeah,
Because that's what it sounds
yeah.
like you're saying.
Well,
I'm talking about
that
where
is-
they're going to finish.
Not as a player, but in their fantasy production. And so,
Okay.
like 1 and 2, I consider them like those are ones that I'm taking a risk on. If I don't get those 2,
Yeah.
then that might be the time I actually go for that running back instead of that third.
I think there's that. I think there's that naturally built in. I think where we think that is might differ, so
Yeah.
we could talk about that.
Okay.
But let's not belabor the point anymore. I think we get right into it. I think we see a shakeup at number 1 overall wide receiver. There's a few reasons. This is a guy that's been there before. Is going to jump back up from position 9 at the end of the season last year. He gets his quarterback back. CD Lamb is going to have a chip on his shoulder. He finished the season before as wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, hot on the heels of Tyreek Hill. I just think the writing's on the wall, to be honest. Dak Prescott, CD Lamb, they're having one. I feel like it's one final go here to see what they could do. There's nobody else on that offense to eat up targets. He's a target monster even when they had guys there. I think the grass is cut for him to kind of be there. I think there's not question marks, but there's things that are going to affect other receivers that we could put here that I think it's pretty certain that Dak Prescott is going to be back. Whether his ankle or whatever's banged up, I still think it doesn't affect his game. He's not a mobile QB. He's a pocket passer, and I think it's going to work out well for CD Lamb.
Yeah, so I'm already surprised.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think it's a terrible choice. He's definitely in my top 5.
Well, I think he is a top 5 guy. So when we name the other guy that you're thinking about, say what you say, and then I'll give you my retort there. But at number 2, it might be the guy you're talking about. Coming off the heels of just an incredible season, I don't see the production stopping. I think some things may affect him a little bit that drop him down a spot, and that's Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is just a special player playing with a special quarterback on a not-so-special team. But, yeah, I mean, I think he's Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to say. If you get Jamar Chase on your team, you get Jamar Chase. If you have pick 1, 2, or 1, 3 in this draft, and you're choosing between Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb, I'm not going to get mad at you if you draft Jamar Chase. I would say, from my perspective, I think CeeDee Lamb will finish a bit higher than him, but I really don't think you go wrong with either of these two guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the guy you were thinking.
Yeah, this would have been my number 1, and it's because 171 targets, 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns.
Yes.
On a team that less than you realize was playing from behind last year. They had some of those games, but they weren't a very good team, and they were still able to move the ball. I like the fact that T. Higgins is very likely to either be franchised or traded. Like, I still think he could be traded.
Yeah.
And so that, if anything, they're going to force the ball even more into Jamar. I do think he's a special talent. I do think he is physically more gifted than CeeDee Lamb.
He is, and he's the specimen amongst wide receivers right now. The only pushback I'll give is the uncertainty I have is the big puzzle piece is what happens with T. Higgins. I think he's back. I think whether it's franchise or by way of contract, I think he's back in the fold, and I think
He's happy.
He's happy. He's going to play.
Yeah.
He's not going to hold back. I think he missed some time last year. That led to some of those numbers with Chase. Now, it's not taking anything away from Chase because he's been very productive before that. But I do think they're going to probably have to invest some more in weapons for Burrow as well.
Third wide receiver, they drafted a kid last year, although I'm blanking.
The kid we liked, his name, Andre Iovasas.
No, so they didn't draft him last year. That guy's good.
Yeah.
They drafted a rookie, and he has not panned out.
Okay, so I thought you were talking about this guy.
But a case for what you're saying is CD plays in a dome 8 games a year.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference. Whereas
And the division, too.
yeah, without a doubt. Whereas Jamar is going to play at least 2, maybe up to 6 weather games.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing in Cleveland and Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and any of those games could go bad with weather.
And understand what I'm saying. There's not going to be a wide margin between CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase. We're talking about like 15, 20 points.
Yeah. Personal preference.
Yeah, it's just I just like to set up for Lamb because he is just the only guy that you care about on that offense, and he's, against my better judgment, has proved that he can still produce in that situation. Okay, so moving on. I think you know the usual suspect here. At 3, I have questions about the quarterback position. I think it is in flux more than people realize. Is Sam Darnold back? We don't know. Is J.J. McCarthy the guy? We don't know. But Justin Jefferson is still going to be a guy that could produce. I don't know if Sam Darnold has that magic if he comes back. I don't know if they're going to look the same. I do know he's going to produce. So just on talent and namesake and history alone, I think he winds up here because I think regardless of who he's playing with, as long as it's not, guys off the street like it was 2 years ago, then I think he's going to produce as a top 5 wide receiver. And I think it kind of changes based on the quarterback play they get. So can he shoot up to 1 if Sam Darnold plays better, if he improves upon last year? Yeah. Can he kind of just stay at the same place if J.J. McCarthy starts and he's solid? Yeah. So I think it's a safe bet with him. But if you're trying to reach for the stars, I think you're going with Chase and I think CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, I love Justin Jefferson. There's absolutely nothing you can say negative about this guy. He's produced, whether it was with Cousins, whether it was with Sam Darnold. Some would say that he made Sam Darnold more than Sam Darnold resurrected himself.
That's fair.
But I have a guy that I would have actually put here, and I think it's probably who you're going to put forth. I know we're both high on this receiver. My only fear about Justin Jefferson is if they don't bring Sam Darnold back and they go to JJ. JJ is an unknown to me as an NFL quarterback.
He is.
If you look at his last season in Michigan, there were more games where he threw 15, 16 passes, than there were that he threw 60, or 40 passes. Like, he just doesn't have a big body of work. I don't know how he can adjust to, a long throw in the NFL. Adjusting to the cornerbacks. That's the only thing I worry about. I don't worry about Justin. I know he's a talent.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said, and that's why he's at 3 for me. But I've seen him produce with just anybody's at quarterback. So I think there's a pretty safe floor, and I think his safe floor is top 5. I only have him ahead of the 2 other guys, the guys that I'm going to talk about next because of who he is. I don't know if I have the guy you think I have next, but obviously we're going to see. This is I want to pull this up here because I want to make sure I get it right. Okay, here we go. So at number 4, now I will admit there's question marks at the quarterback spot here, but I feel like anything is better than what this guy dealt with last season. And I mean almost anything. So with that in mind and where he finished and just the raw talent that I see, I honestly see this guy as the closest thing, talent and just physical raw talent attributes to Jamar Chase in the league right now, and that's Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors in 15 games last season with absolute, second to third string quarterback play, caught 109 balls, 1,200 yards, and 7 touchdowns, and was a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy points. Now, I think it's no secret that the New York Giants they have to go get a veteran quarterback, and they're most likely going to draft one as well. GM Joe Shane said this week as much, word for word, that they're going to get a veteran and they're going to draft a quarterback. So, we all have heard what they have planned, the Stafford stuff. I don't know where they're going, but they're not going to go get a veteran that can't start.
Yeah.
I don't think they can, because they kind of have to win. I just think that he had 170 targets, caught 109. And that's because a lot of those balls were being thrown by Tommy DeVito and Daniel Jones, who was just nowhere near the average player that he was prior to that. I just don't see how he doesn't get better.
Yeah.
And he missed 2 games with the concussion thing.
Yeah.
But the guy, ball in his hands, on the field, eye test, looks to me the closest thing to Jamar Chase. Strong hands, quickness, yards after the catch, but the body control and the strength that Jamar Chase has that I think separates him from a Justin Jefferson, separates him from a CeeDee Lamb. Physique-wise, I think Malik Neighbors has that part of his game. He is built a little bit thicker than some of these other guys. I think he's going to have a whale of a year.
So this is a little bit of a surprise to me. I can't.
Of course it is.
I can't knock your logic at all. I just thought that he would fall into the back five.
We'll see.
One thing I don't like about him is he, as far as number of snaps, one of the highest in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he had 165 targets.
170 actually.
170. So he actually clearly got targets.
Oh, yeah.
Were those targets catchable?
No.
I bet they weren't.
A lot of them weren't, yeah.
He gets Matt Stafford. Hell, he even gets Kirk Cousins. It could be the difference for him.
Well, here's the sticking point, is that the Giants last season, and this is somebody that's watched every snap, did not push the ball down the field at all. So a lot of this production is him creating after the catch. Yeah. I mean, they were not. I think if we looked it up, which I wish we had a stat guy sitting here, but if we looked it up, I'm pretty sure they're like bottom 5 or 6 in attempts over 20 yards for the season. He just wasn't getting those opportunities. Yeah. So if you get a professional quarterback in here, and he's going to make those plays. We've seen it early in the season.
100%.
I just don't. I think, and especially for where you're going to be able to get him, man, I just think that he's like.
I mean, he has the most upside. I think that the 1,200 yards is something that he could do better.
I think easily.
7 touchdowns. I think he's somebody who could do double-digit touchdowns. Again, my fear is he was second in number of targets and third in catch rate.
Yes.
So he has the skill, but you're going to have to bet that quarterback that they get is going to be better than Daniel Jones.
I think anything's going to be better than what they had last year.
You listen, you be careful with Danny DeVito.
No, first of all, that's not his name's Tommy, and Tommy DeVito set us back. I mean,
come on,
it's a nice story.
How dare you?
We would have had Jaden Daniels if Tommy DeVito doesn't win the.
That guy's a success story.
He's gonna. All right. Anyway, moving on. All right, at 5, I know you're gonna hate this one, but this is another projection-based pick here. In opposition to Mark, I think that Jaden Daniels is a good quarterback. I think they're going to get better. He's going to be better. I think it's pretty obvious that he's the kind of guy that is not. He wants to be great. He wants to kind of have a legacy. He's not a guy that's going to rest on his laurels, is what I'm trying to say. I think Jaden Daniels in the offseason is going to spend a lot of time with Terry McLaurin. I think they're going to get to know each other better. I think we've seen the chemistry late in the second half of the season between the two. And I think Terry McLaurin's going to threaten for wide receiver 5. I can see him at 6, but I wanted to put him here because I think I wanted to shake it up a little bit. But I still think he has another year or two of prime production. And I think this is the time with Jaden Daniels on the come up. They're going to fill out that offense a little bit more. And I think we've seen he can still get downfield. He can still track the ball pretty well. He's still tough. He still played, I think, every game. How many? You have his stuff pulled up. How many games did he play?
As near as I can tell, he only missed one game.
Yeah, so he's still pretty reliable, and I think he's going to be the go-to guy.
Yeah, I love this pick. He definitely would not have been in my top 5, but I can't fault your logic. 18th in the number of targets, so I think he'll see more targets next year.
Sure, yeah.
15th in catch rate. I think he'll see more catchable targets next year
Hopefully.
as Jaden gets another year under his belt. I think you can only go 1,096 yards. I think he could easily have 1,400. He might have a touchdown or two less, but I think he still has room to rise. So remind me, your top 5 were your number 1.
I had Lamb,
CeeDee Lamb,
Chase, Jefferson, Neighbors, McLaurin.
Okay, so that leaves me a lot.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that leads me a lot. And there were a couple that you jumped, and so like you had Terry higher than I would.
Well, I want you to change yours because of mine. I want you to give me yours.
Okay, yeah.
As is.
Yeah, so like my 6 to 10, okay, my 6 to 10, and you left me 3,
Yeah.
okay, that
You would have had top 5.
I would have thought top 5. I
So-
could have had top 5.
So just put them out there, and then we could talk about the guys that you would have had.
So here's one that I would have made a case, and he would be the 6th choice right now. And because I think it's easier for me to base it off what you've already drafted.
Okay, all right.
Let's pretend that was the draft.
Okay.
And I'm drafting at 6. This one is Nico Collins.
Okay.
Nico Collins was 32nd in the number of targets, 70th. He only had 70% of the pass snaps compared to Jamar Chase that had 98, Justin Jefferson that had 97. He had a terrible catch rate, 28, because many of his passes were just not on target.
Okay.
He was also injured for several games. I think it was 4 this year. And so I think this is a guy who is going to see 120 to 150 targets next year. I do think CJ Stroud is going to shake off some of that sophomore slump. I think he's going to come back stronger his 3rd year. He is a good, competent quarterback. So I think this is a guy that could have 100, 115, 120 receptions, 1,400 yards, and double-digit touchdowns. So
that's your 6?
yeah, that would be 6.
Okay.
This is another guy that I absolutely love, and again, another guy that I'm surprised because I know you're really high in this guy.
Who?
And that's Amon.
I am, yeah.
Amon St. Brown. I know you're high in him. I'm high in him. He is somebody who I would have looked at, again, in my top 5, but 138 targets, 115 receptions, 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns. And he played at least 4 of those games with a nagging injury.
Yeah.
And so I think a healthy guy, I think another year in that offense, I think it's going to come together even more. I think he has got the highest floor of almost any receiver in the NFL. You know what he's going to be.
I agree with that. So give me a second to respond to your Nico Collins. I think the only pushback I would have there is, a lot of, off-target balls. He's playing with the same guy. So, you think that – I'm not saying he's not good. What I'm saying is that I have to wait and see. Is CJ Stroud the CJ Stroud from his rookie year, or is he the guy from last year?
That's the hope, yeah.
And then the injury thing with Nico Collins, I think, is not I wouldn't say a concern, but it's something to keep in mind when I'm ranking them. So Nico Collins, I think at 6 is perfect.
Yeah.
Because I think people can argue him top 5, based on the numbers you gave and them moving in the right direction. I can see that, but those 2 things worry me. Amon-Ra, I guess you didn't check in last week with our episode, did you?
I did not.
Okay, so we talked about our quarterbacks, our risers and fallers, and one of my fallers out of the top 12 was Jared Goff. And the multitude of reasons, I'd say the main ones were why can't I think of the word? Wow. The main reason was the ascension of, why can't I think of his name?
James.
Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson to head coach of the Bears. They're losing their OC. I think that Goff last year, in Goff's case, I think he was the beneficiary of a few really big games.
Yeah, they were playing from behind some.
It was middling in a lot of games throughout the year. I think that, so all that to say that it's a different offense. Amon-Ra St. Brown, yes, great player, great floor. I wonder how much of anything is affected by whoever is taking the reins. Yeah, they're probably going to keep a guy to run a similar system, but you know how this goes. All these coaches, they have their own careers, they're their own guys. This guy's going to have his own little way of running this offense. Does that affect Amon-Ra? Does it not? I don't know. I feel like I'm worried about their pass game. I know it sounds crazy.
Yeah.
I'm more secure in Gibbs and Monty. I don't know what that pass game is going to look like. I don't know if they're going to start figuring out how to affect Jared Goff without Ben Johnson there. He's not a mobile guy. Can that pass? We seen it last season to open the season. The offense wasn't looking very crisp. I think there's ways they can be affected, so that dropped him down a little bit for me.
Yeah. But we're talking about a guy just drafted 7th, and I love that. Like if I got
at 7, Well,
it's crazy.
I'm talking about because you mentioned top 5, so that's why he didn't make my top 5.
So to me, he's a top 5 talent. And I would maybe even
I don't
say,
agree with that.
Yeah, and I get that, but like I honestly think there are things I like better about him than CD.
Yeah, well, that's fine. But Justin Jefferson, I'll put in my top 5 every year because of his talent.
That's right.
No matter who he's playing with,
Jamar
no matter the
Chase, too.
system.
Yep.
Jamar Chase. I feel like Amon-Ra is a grit. He's a talented guy. He's in the NFL. Not saying this guy's not talented. Amon-Ra St. Brown is very talented. He is not Justin Jefferson. He is not Jamar Chase. So if the situation isn't right, if the quarterback isn't right, I think that affects his game.
Yeah,
he reminds me of Anquan Bolden kind of guy.
He's just a guy that CD. You have games where he disappears.
Yeah,
I'm on almost never. Like if he's on that field, he's
that's true.
8 receptions
most of the time. Yeah.
Okay, let's go. My next one, and this is a fast riser. I am going to point out that this is our second receiver from The Ohio State University, and that is JSN. I think JSN is going to have a better year this year than he had last year, and he had a great year last year, 133 targets, 100 receptions, low in yardage because he does run some of the mid and underneath routes, which I think could change if they trade DK, and there's a lot of smoke that they're trading DK.
Yeah, there is.
And so if an offense without DK, I think this guy begins to run some of those X routes where he's a little bit deeper. So I think his yards go up. I think his touchdowns go up from 6. I'm really happy to get this guy at 8.
I can't argue with that. I'd probably like him ahead of the 2 guys you put before him, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So my only fear about the reason why he's a little bit lower is what's happening with Geno. Is he coming back? Is he not coming back? They keep talking about Geno might be cut or he might be traded. What they're not saying is, and who are they
replacing him?
That is what the only thing that scares me is that quarterback could be a lot worse than a Goff even on a bad year.
That's true.
So that's why I kind of went higher. Now we're going to go to my 9th and 10th. This is
9th and 10th?
Yeah, well, I'm 9th.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
This is a rookie last year, and his rookie season was tremendous. This is a guy who's 6'4", 205 pounds, really big-bodied receiver, seems to know how to run routes, and he's just getting better. I expect a great season from him this year. He was 14th in the number of targets, 30th in the number of pass snaps, so both of those can improve, but he still had 129 targets, 87 receptions, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, and that's Brian Thomas Jr. I am not somebody who is as down on Trevor Lawrence as some people are. I think Trevor, if healthy, in a functioning offense with a second-year coach, or I guess this is a first-year coach. He's getting with a new coach. I think the story isn't written yet about Trevor. I would trade for, if I were the Browns, I would trade for Trevor. I think there's a lot left to his story. So I think that's going to benefit Brian Thomas Jr. And again, you can't teach height. You can't teach speed.
Yeah, I love Brian Thomas Jr. I can't argue with Brian Thomas Jr., but I don't share the same optimism with you as far as I All right, so Trevor Lawrence, I think, is a good quarterback. Right? Let's put that out there on the record. I don't know if he's a consistent difference maker. I think we've seen him be a difference maker. I think we've seen him be a difference maker negatively. I don't know where I stand with Trevor Lawrence right now, but for me, he's not the biggest issue. I think for me, Jacksonville in general, their front office worries me, and the instability, the musical chairs they played this offseason with their GM, the head coach search. It's just been a mess. From Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson to floundering on your GM because you couldn't get the coaches you wanted. I just don't know in that building if it's the right situation for them to be a good team all year. We've seen him look great all year, but we've seen dips too. We've seen 4-point games, 1.2 points, 2.7, 8.6, 8.6, where this is not marks of a bad receiver, but it's marks of a team that played inconsistently.
Yeah, that's fair.
That looked good down the stretch, so I will give them that. And they looked like they put it together the last 5 weeks of the season, where the catch to target ratio was where you want it to be for your receiver. But earlier in the season, targets were low at a bunch of points after he kind of broke out in week 3. There's a lot of uncertainty with him, and it's not because of him.
Yeah.
So I feel like this could be a home run, and he could finish closer to 5. And I feel like this could be a bad season for Jacksonville, and he could finish outside the top 12.
Yeah.
But I think it's really like boom or bust with him because of his situation, not because of the player, who I think is a great player.
Well, and a lot of this, again, like we're basing all of this stuff, and like you're basing Malik Neighbors on the hope that the Giants figure out that quarterback issue or at least improve it. And I think we're taking, because like the next guy I'm going to take, if you're reading the rumors, I wouldn't be taking this guy.
Yeah, that's why I didn't have him.
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
In fact, I tell you who I would be taking if I believed that the rumors were true. I would be taking Garrett Wilson. I might be taking a chance on Marvin Harrison, who I think is going to make a tremendous jump in his second year. But I don't believe these rumors. I believe that Matt Stafford is staying in Los Angeles. I think it is very possible that Kupp is gone. And I think Puka, who was 28th in a number of targets and 19th in the catch rate, so his passes typically were a little bit harder to grab, still produced 1,000 yards and 3 touchdowns, including several games where he was injured. He was 83rd in wide receivers in the number of pass snaps. And so I think Puka is going to rebound. Puka. Wow, Puka. I think Puka could be a receiver that if Kupp is gone, could see 150 targets, 110 receptions, and then you're talking about a top 5 fantasy production receiver.
Yeah.
So that would be my last one. And so my final 5 would be Nico, Amon, JSN, Brian Thomas Jr., and then Puka.
Yeah. I like Puka. I mean, if you get Puka as a 10th wide receiver off the board, I feel good about it.
Good.
Yeah. He would be top 5 or close to top 5 if I knew that Stafford was going to be back.
So who else did I miss? Is there anybody else that you would? Because I thought really hard about Wilson.
I don't know that I could go with Wilson right now.
I would go with Wilson if I believed that the Jets were bringing in Stafford.
Let's see. Who did you leave out? Who did we leave out?
You got Rashee Rice. You got A.J. Brown.
I mean, A.J. Brown, I just don't know what's happening with him. Drake London, we got to see Penix first. I mean, I feel good about what you put up there.
McConkey.
I think DJ Moore, with Ben Johnson coming into town, is another sleeper that we thought, unfortunately, we thought that he would break out last year.
And in my wide receiver episodes that we did a couple weeks ago, I put him as a fast riser. He is somebody who I do believe.
And I like Ben Johnson a lot after listening to him talk a few times.
Yeah.
I like his demeanor. I like the way he goes about talking, the way he talks about the game, his mindset about the game. I think that he's going to be successful. I think he'll kind of right the ship with Caleb there, too. So I like DJ Moore.
I thought about Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, I just have to see
That's
what
it.
happens.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans were two that I want to put in
Mike
my top
Evans
10.
is a good one because I think he'll probably finish around top 10 again.
Well, he always does.
He always
and
does, and
He's
we never
another year
mention it.
older,
Yeah.
but he's had, it's hard to knock Mike Evans.
His game's not predicated on speed. But and you just brought up a perfect point. Godwin is going to be back and healthy, and they want to re-sign him.
Yeah.
I just seen that yesterday. They're working to re-sign him. When he got hurt, he was wide receiver 2, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, I was ecstatic. I had him on my team as like my 4th wide receiver, and he was just flourishing. We said that going into last season, right?
We did.
That
Because
they were going to
Baker-
put him back in the slot.
Yep.
Baker liked them, and they had chemistry, and they looked like it did. I'm interested to see how they look this year with all their weapons.
People misdiagnose Baker as a deep threat quarterback. He's not. He prefers tight ends and underneath routes with slot receivers that set up a deep pass several times a game.
Yeah.
What happened last year was when Godwin got hurt, all they had was Mike Evans deep, and so they did it.
They had the kid McMillan that came in and played well.
They did.
But, man, if you look at where they finished the season with that defense playing well, Mike Evans, you get Godwin back in the fold, Bucky Irvin looking like
Irvin looked like a stud, and honestly, Rashad White as a second running back, that's stellar.
I feel like they have to be the favorite to win that division again, right?
yeah.
And I think they'll be better this year.
Unless you believe Atlanta's going to put it together with.
I don't
Penix.
believe in their first year they'll put it together. But
Anyways,
all right. So I mean, it is Combine Week. We didn't talk about any rookies. Is there any rookie wide receivers that are catching your eye or maybe catching your ire?
So this is the interesting thing, and I think this is one of the most interesting drafts, especially at the top, because if you look at the last 5 or 6 drafts, we have seen a wide receiver go in the top 10 every single year, honestly, in the top 5 most years. Mm-hmm. This year is really interesting because if you're going straight as the best wide receiver, you would have to go to Tataria McMillan out of Arizona. And this is just an absolute big-bodied wide receiver. Kind of has comparisons to T. Higgins and Drake London with his size and his skill set. He's 6'5", 212 pounds. He's going to be a really good red zone target. Mm-hmm. Or are you taking the risk, and do you believe Travis Hunter is a wide receiver in the NFL? Because if you don't believe Travis Hunter is a wide receiver in the NFL, then there is no reason anybody should draft Travis Hunter in the top 5. Travis Hunter should be 6th or after, because what does he excel at? He excels. He's an amazing ball handler. He's got amazing ball skills. I'm sorry, cornerback in the NFL, if you're good, they're not throwing your way. Denzel Ward doesn't have a ton of interceptions. His strength is in that nobody will throw to his side. So if Travis is a great cornerback, he might interact with the ball 5 times a game, maybe. He might have 60 for an entire season. So unless you believe Travis Hunter is a wide receiver capable of playing day one, he should not be drafted in the top 6. And I've been thinking about this because I've looked at him. Number 1, he's 6'1". That's fine. 185 pounds. He's got to put almost 20 pounds on to be a legitimate NFL receiver, number 1 receiver to me. So it's an interesting juxtaposition. So I think the only receiver I feel really comfortable with is McMillan out of Arizona. But I think that Travis Hunter is going to be taken in the top 2.
So do you not think that? So let's just go with the cornerback thing. If he's Derek Stingley, Denzel Ward level cornerback, right? Is he not worth the top 5 pick?
Who was the last cornerback taken in the top 5? Because
was it Stingley or no?
I don't remember where Stingley was taken, but I was shocked. I looked at the last 10 drafts. And it was surprising. What you normally see at the top 5 quarterbacks, defensive ends,
of course, yeah,
and offensive tackles every once in a while, and then wide receivers.
What about the kid in Denver?
I know you're talking about, but I'm blanking.
Why can't I remember his name? Yeah, Texans took Stingley at pick 3,
Yeah.
2022.
Yep.
And then who's the kid in
Round 1, number 3 overall. So Stingley was taken a number 3 overall, which is, and I can't. I'm blanking on Denver's.
I'll tell you right now, this is happening. Let's see, here we go. Am I on the depth chart? Yeah, Patrick Surtain.
Yeah.
Pat Surtain might have been taken a little bit later. He went 9th.
Yeah. So I mean, we named 2.
Yeah.
That were taken in the top.
Well, the last
yeah.
couple of years, but yeah.
But I'm looking, and here's a list: tackle, quarterback, defensive end, wide receiver. Those tend to be the top. 5
those
picks.
are the most important positions.
I like Travis.
But cornerback
Hunter.
is right there with them.
100%, and I like Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter is going to have a fine career. I don't know that a 185 number 1 receiver is possible.
Yeah,
in the NFL.
I think that's the big conversation. I guess we'll see more on his pro day, and
there's a lot of smoke, like you said. There's a ton of smoke. The Browns have said that they are looking for generational talent, and when they're talking
so do
generation,
the Titans. The Titans said the same.
So what they're trying to say is Travis Hunter deserves a top 2 pick.
Yes,
I don't think you say that if that's who you're drafting.
maybe. Yeah,
I don't think so.
Well,
What do you gain?
here's my thing. Why are you smoke screening at 1 and 2?
I think what you're hoping is that somebody offers you So for instance,
But wouldn't you want a smoke screen that you're taking a quarterback then?
well, I think that they're leaving it open ended, right? So the Browns,
Maybe.
they're not saying they're not taking Shador. They like Shador. They like Cam, but they're also talking about fit, generational talent, which could mean Abdul Carter if you believe him, or Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
I think what the Browns are. Listen, if you need a quarterback like the Giants, if the Giants, they need a quarterback. If they believe Shador or Cam are it, they got to trade up and get it.
Yeah, I don't think they have to trade up, though, because I do think the Browns or the Titans are going to take one of those 2 guys.
Or I think what the Browns are hoping is that the Raiders or the Giants will trade up and give them another number 1 next year or another second this
It's a
year.
game of chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Raiders might.
I think the Raiders seem the most desperate. I go back and forth on both of these quarterbacks.
Yeah, I like Shador. I don't think the Giants are. I don't think they like Ward.
So Ward has a tremendous ceiling, just a tremendous ceiling. But I don't know. He's like a much more raw Lamar Jackson.
I don't know. The thing with Cam Ward that I like Shador because he's a quarterback. He's a quarterback in the things that he does, the way he conducts himself. Makes good decisions both on and off the field. He's a pocket passer.
He knows what it means to be a pro because he watched his dad.
He holds the ball sometimes too long.
But part of that was his offensive line.
So I think he's not a perfect player by any stretch. But if I'm picking one of these 2 guys, I'm going to go with the guy I know that's going to come in and work every day and put his best foot forward to be the best he could be. Unless
the Giants are, man, we could move back and maybe get a second pick.
I don't think there's any way they could. I like that thought process, especially in this draft. I just don't think the regime that they have in house right now
they're feeling the pressure.
Can do it. The owner said as much that he has to be feeling better.
But they
next
might
year.
feel really good, especially coming out of the combine. Because I tell you who's gonna work out in the combine: Jackson Dart, Will Howard, Kyle McCord. These are the quarterbacks that. But if the Giants see something they like in Jackson Dart, or they think Will Howard is the next coming of Josh Allen.
Well, I can see that happening if what you're saying happens. Somebody trades up, snatches Shador. I can see them moving back. But it depends on who's on the board. I think if Abdul Carter's there, it's hard to pass him up. I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting this year just because there's no clear
there's not
definitive anything.
Where would Shador, where would Cam have gone last year? A lot of professional prognosticators are saying that those 2 would have fallen somewhere around where Michael Penix fell.
Yeah, like the 4th and 5th.
And I'm not even sold on Penix yet.
Me neither.
So if you feel that strongly that they are that guy.
Yeah.
You got like if you're the Giants, you got to trade to second if that's what you think it takes.
Yeah, you might.
But
have
if you
to.
don't,
I think they're in on Shador, but we'll see. Hey,
Yeah.
well, that's the show. I hope you liked it. I hope you disagreed or agreed with our rankings. Obviously, we'll do a bunch more of these super early before the combine, before free agency, before the draft. But we'll circle back and we'll do every position as we always do. So we want you guys to please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know when we upload something new and we got some new information for you. I don't know how many of you guys are drafting yet. I know some of you are, but we will continue to provide you with the best info we can and our thoughts and our angles on the way we see these guys. Go to the TikTok at GON Podcast. Go watch some of the clips there. Jump into the convo. Get involved. Direct message us. We'll answer. We love you.
Peace.